A massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, especially these days. 8 different settings, adjustable intensity, plus it's heated, and it just feels so good. Yes, a massage chair might seem a bit extravagant, but when it can come with a car, suddenly it seems quite practical. The all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, packed with premium features like available massaging front seats, it only feels extravagant.
The Timeline is a Blue Wire podcast.
Durant works off the screen, raising up from mid-range, and that is the sweet spot for Kevin Durant.
Welcome to the Timeline of Phoenix Suns podcast. Sam, how's it going?
What is up, my friend? Listeners out there, we don't usually do this, but we're kind of riding the adrenaline bump right now. We just had an awesome playback after a game. And yeah, we don't usually do these kind of live post-game reaction pods in the regular season. We do them obviously all throughout the playoffs. We had to record tonight.
Yeah.
The hype was insane, and that game lived up to the hype.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It actually lived up to the hype. It was fantastic for a number of reasons that I think we're about to get into.
Yeah, the only disappointing part about it is that it was against Charlotte.
This
is not their fault. You know, one of the worst teams in the league, 20-43 record.
Big picture thinking, major, huge narratives. We're going to win the championship. We're going to sweep everyone. We're not doing any of that tonight.
No.
Based on a win over Charlotte. And you're right. Maybe the fact that it was against Charlotte without LaMelo Ball takes that away from us a little bit. But I still think for what we've always tried to do, and I know you agree with this, of kind of like really getting into the nitty gritty about kind of the way the team's playing, the strategy, if you will. There's still a lot of awesome stuff to take away from a game like that. And that's going to apply against Charlotte. It's going to apply against Milwaukee, Boston, and Denver too. So like that, it was just awesome to see KD on the court seamlessly transitioning into their system offensively and defensively, and to play like a solid 25, 26 minutes without pain in his knee and just give an awesome performance.
Incredible debut for him, 10 for 15 for Kevin Durant, 23 points, 2 blocks, by the way, in the first quarter, 2 assists, 6 rebounds, just amazing defense by Kevin Durant, haunting the Charlotte Hornets as a secondary rim protector. And just an incredible game for the team in general. I thought there was a lot of interesting things to take away. I've talked a lot today, by the way. We just talked for 3 hours. Come on and do a podcast immediately afterwards. But it was just, I think the hype, like you said, the hype was there from the beginning. There was over 100 people in our playback stream before the game even started.
Before the game started.
And it just, it's so cool to see it work out. You don't want to see a disappointing debut, and you didn't. You saw Kevin Durant come in and be Kevin Durant. And look, the real lasting thing that people are going to remember from watching this game and just watching Kevin Durant in general is that it doesn't matter if the other team plays good defense. He's just so tall and he makes great jump shots. And that, I think, you saw it to start this game. First few buckets by KD were sort of improv buckets. They were not necessarily within the Suns' offensive sets. It's just when things don't go well and the ball swings to Kevin Durant, you're just going to get a great shot out of it. And before, the Suns could do that with Devin Booker, but the level of which that goes up in not just having 2 guys, but the second guy being Kevin Durant, it was so obvious in this game from the very beginning that that's what it's going to be like for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, also just it would be remiss of us not to mention maybe Book is actually the headline leader
incredible game
out of this game. 37 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. And just the craziest thing here, he took, if anyone was worried about how these two are going to fit together and Book is going to be relegated to a number 2 and I don't know, he's not going to get his touches. I feel like that's not a talking point I've seen a ton, but maybe some people out there thought it. He took 26 shots tonight to KD's 15.
Mm-hmm. Book's and KD 26 minutes total, on a minutes restriction too.
Yeah, but even Book, in this game only had to play 33. This was not a game where he had to play 39 or 40 minutes, and he got to 37 points and 7 assists with only 1 turnover. He's going to get his looks. He's going to get his shots. If I had to guess, on the whole, on average, KD's still going to be taking slightly more for the rest of the season, if I had to guess. But that is very much just like a slightly educated guess at this point.
I think it will depend on minutes too. Booker might play more.
For sure. He might play more. Especially with the minutes restriction. Although I think we're going to get KD back to 30 plus.
Yeah.
Pretty soon, if not immediately. But the level of comfort that those two displayed together on offense, it was immediate. There was, and we kind of hypothesized that it would look this way, but there was no adjustment period that I could see.
Yeah, absolutely. And the comfortability of those two guys in particular playing together is because they have played together before, in that they played in the Olympics together, and they were two of the main pieces, two of the highest minute getters in the Olympics, so they're clearly comfortable with each other. But Brian Windhorst, he went on to NBA today, and he said that the Suns had a mini training camp, which is something we expected to happen during All-Star break. But basically, they said a lot of people take breaks during All-Star break, and the Suns didn't. He said that Devin Booker and Kevin Durant were working every single day during that All-Star break, and essentially the Suns worked together as a team to try to be prepared because of how little time they have left to get ready. And as games go, teams, I don't know if most people know this, but most NBA teams don't have a lot of practices during the season. There's just too many games, and guys need days off to rest their bodies. So they use that break as an opportunity to work together and try to get to the place where they could play really well. And to start with strategy, to start with game plan, I think one place we could start with, Sam, is saying who started. And that was Josh Okogie. Because it was Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Josh Okogie, and DeAndre Ayton. We had some level of discourse, I'll say, about who that fifth starter could be. And you and I were pretty definitive in our support for that fifth guy being Josh Okogie.
Were most we
all got there, I feel like, yeah.
We all got there within a matter of a week, it felt like, because Okogie, they had his stats up on the broadcast, and over the past 6 games, you can't deny, you can't argue with what his production has been recently. He's been phenomenal. But yeah, that discourse that you're referring to kind of carried us through all last week. It felt like we were really, really hammering home the point of we need Josh Okogie to start.
One big question. They had one big question, yeah.
He is by far the best point of attack defender remaining on this roster. And the question is just going to be, he's going to be the guy left open in the corner when the Suns look to swing on offense and the defense is scrambling. Josh Okogie is going to get open threes. To what extent can he nail those open threes? To what extent can he drive out of the corner and become a playmaker? And I think that, those questions will persist. That remains to be seen. Tonight, he only had 4 points in 33 minutes. Yeah. But for the most part, in most games against opponents like these, Josh Okogie can score 4 points in 33 minutes and still be one of the most impactful players on the floor. He was everywhere on defense. And it was constant, and it was just a level of impact that you could immediately see that Torrey can't bring, that Ish can't bring, that TJ Warren can't bring, certainly, that no other wing on this roster can bring. So he's got to be that guy.
And, offense is obviously a big picture thing to take away from this game. It was against the Charlotte Hornets, so I'm not going to overthink it, but the Suns did win a game where one starter had 2 points and another had 4.
They surrendered 91 points. That's objectively,
That's what I was going to say. The defense, to me, is more of what's going to stick with me and what I saw in my mind from this game more than the offense.
Absolutely. The NBA in 2023, where we're at, offensive ratings are like 115 for every team right now or something, plus. To hold any team to 91 points, even if LaMelo Ball's out, even if they have struggled, they still have guys on that team who can score. Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, Kelly Oubre certainly tried his best to to throw up 25 or 30 shots. I don't know how many he actually finished with.
24.
24. And I'll give him credit because he started like 2 for 14. And at a certain point in the third quarter, though? 1.
One,
I'm looking at the box score. There's a reason that the Suns got rid of him.
Yeah.
It's the same reason actually that the Suns got rid of TJ Warren the first time.
Who played well today.
I think he played well.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. We can cover that later. But any team to hold any team to 91 points defensively is an accomplishment in the NBA in 2023. And I think it all comes back where we can start with is the strategy we were talking about with Steven on his last episode, who was also on the playback tonight, and just really want to give him credit again because he was the first guy I heard talking about it. The weak side protection that KD brings, the amount of length that you have now between KD and DeAndre Ayton in your front court allows DeAndre Ayton to be so much more aggressive in his pick and roll defensive coverage and in the schemes that you can play. And it wasn't even just Ayton. You pointed out that we've been seeing a lot of it out of Jock Landale in the backup spot as well. And so just overall, systematically, we saw the Suns playing much, much higher on pick and rolls defensively. Everyone else would shift around and cover in the gaps. And when those guys cover in the gaps are Kevin Durant and Josh Okogie and Chris Paul, too, who has fantastic hands, good things are going to come out of it. And you're going to force turnovers and you're going to trap ball handlers. And we certainly saw the effects tonight. It looked amazing.
It really did. And, I'm going to find that play and post it online just so everyone could see it in action. But the basics of it that you're talking about, and it happened more than once, but it was essentially when there's a pick and roll with DeAndre Ayton involved. DeAndre Ayton has played in a drop, which we've talked about recently, the majority of the time, 99% of the time this season. And what that means is when he's involved in the pick and roll, he's guarding the screener, right? He takes a step back. He's usually maybe 1 foot in the paint or even further at times, and tries to contain both the person with the ball and the roller until the person whose screen gets back into the play, and then they can decide either to switch or not switch at that point. In this specific game, and what we've seen, not just of Jock in this game, but of Jock in the last few games, which I thought was by design, right? They were testing it out a little bit with Jock Landale before DeAndre Ayton was set in the game to do it, was Ayton was playing basically at the level of the screen. Even in some cases, you could call it somewhat of a soft trap, where he was containing the ball handler at the screen and not letting them get around it. And the reason they can do that is because Kevin Durant will come off of his man in the corner and just stand at the rim, under the paint, right, in the paint. Be ready for anyone who may escape out of there and stop them at the rim. And this kind of defense it's what Jokic plays, right? And a lot of I would say it like a lot of centers who are not great at moving their feet play it. The Suns are not necessarily doing it with Ayton because of that reason. But what it does for a lot of teams is it forces them to take shots in the mid-range or just pass out of it and create an isolation. And this is good news for the Suns, right? If teams do it against the Suns, which they do, the Suns have a bunch of guys who can shoot from the mid-range. Other teams don't, really.
Right.
There's just not a lot of guys who can do it.
It's the big gamble of the rest of their season. If you can force other teams to try and engage in this mid-range battle with you, you believe in the mid-range ability of Kevin Durant and Chris Paul and Devin Booker, obviously, and you have faith.
DeAndre Ayton, yeah.
And DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
Other guys, not so much, but those four, yeah. And, you have confidence that you can win that battle 9 times out of 10, if not more.
Yeah, and I think it's a good bet. I mean, it's what the Suns have been betting on. It's actually what Chris Paul teams have been doing for like the last 10 years, right? Force teams to take mid-range shots and take more mid-range shots than them and make them. And it's common in the playoffs for teams to revert to that kind of basketball. And that's what the Suns have been constantly betting on with how they built the team. And I think the way that they've moved into this Kevin Durant era, I mean, it's so much of a double down on that bet. It's more than that even, right? You're kind of tripling down on this bet and trying to win that way. And I think it's a smart gamble, and I'm interested to see how it works against better teams because the Hornets are the Hornets, and like you said, they're missing their best player. They played hard, right? The Hornets clearly wanted to win this game. It's not like they gave up halfway through, but there's nothing they can do against this Suns team. Can the Suns beat good teams with Chris Paul only scoring 2 points? Sometimes, maybe.
I think that's the least
can.
of my worries. To be honest, Chris Paul scoring 2 points, least of my worries. He shot 1 of 8 tonight, I think. An off night for Chris, but he'll shoot better. One thing that I was pointing out on the playback, but this has always been a thing with Chris, just that he needs to shoot catch and shoot threes. If you're going to be on the floor at the same time as Kevin Durant, then they need to figure out how they're going to flow a little bit better because we've stressed so much the versatility of KD. I think it's awesome that you can input him into any position and he can be the pick and roll ball handler. But then that means that if he's sharing the floor with Chris is going to be on the wing, and Chris needs to be ready to either shoot or attack a closeout quickly. And we know that hasn't always been his greatest strength. So it's going to be something they work out. But 2 points for Chris tonight doesn't worry me. You can beat good teams with Chris Paul scoring 0 points. And I truly believe that. I do think... Are you ready to kind of pivot more towards offense? We only talked about defense for a bit.
I want to stay on Ayton just for a minute here because I think he was just awesome. Awesome in this game. 16 points, 16 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 block, only 1 turnover, 5 fouls, but I'm not worried about that. But also 7 for 10. And I think Ayton averages basically 14 field goal attempts per game this season. And he's not going to get that the rest of this season. He's just not. I would be very surprised if he was taking 14 or more field goal attempts on average for the rest of the season. And what that means is that if he's not getting the shots, it's vital. It's incredibly important for him to do everything else well. And he was so good in this game, moving his feet defensively, getting rebounds, making the right reads, and just being a guy who, in some ways, if you're not paying close attention, you might not even realize how great he's doing. Like if you're just somebody kind of zooming in from another fan base to watch KD's first game, maybe you don't realize that Ayton was great. But I know the people listening to this podcast and people who watch this game that listen to this podcast can recognize a great game by him where maybe he doesn't have 20 points. And this was such a great example of how impactful he can be within a system that includes Kevin Durant. And it was great to see right off the bat because the importance of DeAndre in this season is incredibly high. You and I, Sam, we went on the Hardwood Knocks podcast hosted by Dan Favali, our friend, and Dan called DeAndre Ayton maybe the most important defender on any team for the rest of the season. And I think that is such a great way to point out the importance of what he is and what he can do for this team. So I think it was important to point it out because I just thought he was excellent in this game.
Listen, life's all about leveling up. Whether you're handling business on the field or kicking it in your zone, you like to celebrate with cigars that match the moment. That's why you should link up with Famous Cigars to bring you a wild deal. Right now, you can grab 8 premium cigars for just $8. You heard that right. 8 top-rated cigars at $1 a stick. Top quality brands like Oliva, Romeo y Julieta, and Davidoff. Hand-picked just for you and worth over $80. Hit up famouscigars.com/cam and lock in this exclusive deal. While you're there, check out their insane selection of premium cigars, all shipped fresh and fast from their massive 20,000 square foot humidor. That's half a football field. Famous Cigars has been in the game since 1939 and still family owned. So celebrate every win with the folks at Famous. 8 cigars for $8. famouscigars.com/cam.
The Suns, if we face the types of contending teams on our road to the finals or in the finals that we think we will, right? If the likely candidates are there, if the Bucks are there in the East, or if the Nuggets are there in the Western Conference Finals, you can't beat these teams without Ayton playing that role on defense that we need. You just can't.
Yes. And so the importance of him doing it, even if he doesn't get 15 shot attempts, it's just so much more important than before.
Right. And I let me just say, the balance of power on offense tonight, I thought the Suns did still do a good job of trying to feed him a little bit and trying to reward him with some touches. And it's going to be a very touch and feel thing for the rest of the season. But I think they'll be able to succeed in keeping him happy on offense. It's not going to be purely we just want you to grab 15 rebounds and play this more aggressive defensive scheme, and that's all you're going to do. He's going to continue to be rewarded. He just doesn't have to carry the same type of load as before because Kevin Durant's there now, and that should be very natural for him, hopefully.
Well, I'm excited to see it because if he can be, and this is always a question with him, but this is a different kind of pressure than before, if he can be this engaged going forward, the defense was great tonight. Really genuinely great by everyone. And I think that the combination of Okogie being just incredibly disruptive and sort of not knowing what Ayton's going to do, if you're on the other team, if he's going to play you high, if he's going to be at the rim in that drop, if he's going to trap, if he's going to, go hard on that trap, you just don't know. And that kind of unpredictability from DeAndre Ayton, I think it could be really fascinating, because this is a new era of DeAndre Ayton playing that high on the screen. They don't do. And also there were times in this game too when the action involved both KD and DeAndre Ayton. They were just switching that, right? Because KD's on a forward. Yeah, and they just can switch that, right? Because KD can handle the center. Most of the time, for those who don't pay close attention with DeAndre Ayton this season, they'll switch everything else. If the action involves any of the four other players, they'll switch
1 through 4,
it.
yeah.
Right, but if Ayton's involved, they don't. But now they can. And they just that kind of versatility, having the ability as a team to be versatile, but adding the versatility that DeAndre Ayton in theory can have for the rest of the season can be really exciting. And it's probably, outside of offensively what these guys could do, probably going to be the thing that I pay the most attention to for the rest of the season.
They've got the potential, if they want, to have one of the most complicated and intricate defenses in the NBA. I think where you don't want to get players lost in the weeds a little bit is maybe with some of the role guys who aren't necessarily known for defense or who are only going to play 15 minutes per game. I think we've seen it a little with, maybe this is a reason TJ hasn't played so much, or Terrence Ross, who was injured tonight, but I think we've talked about how he struggled a little bit defensively in his first few games. Some of those decisions of when to switch, when not to switch, it's going to be interesting for me to kind of track what their logic is going to be there. But absolutely, versatility is the word. They have versatility now. They have options. So if anything, Monty might need to find ways to simplify some things, some concepts for guys.
Yeah, that is a good point. There's a lot of, in this game alone, I guess TJ Warren and Kevin Durant were the main new guys playing. But then, you have other guys that can come in and play later. Terrence Ross was out for this game. He needs to. Terrence Ross was not understanding the Suns scheme defensively in the last few games, and they need time to figure that out. But you wanted to talk about offenses. Is there somewhere that you would like to start?
Well, yeah, it's with what you were talking about before. This concept of rim pressure is going to come up a lot as people try and knock the Suns for various things the rest of the season. If they're not talking about health, they're going to talk about rim pressure. The idea that Suns aren't getting to the line enough, they're not getting enough free throws. This is something that I've talked about for years. I've wanted the Suns to add rim pressure. And so I start there because I acknowledge that it's a very important thing. Even in a game like tonight, when the Suns were getting to the free throw line and they finished with only 15 free throw attempts, we were laughing about the fact on the playback stream that it was just so often like these mid-range jumpers. Like I
think the only ones that weren't were Okogie and then Ayton just getting fouled at the rim. Yeah,
Okogie throwing his body into random people when the Suns were already in the bonus so that he could get to the free throw line. He's awesome. But I called it his version of Chris Paul's rip through. Is wait till they're in the bonus and then just do something ridiculous.
Violence, yeah.
Just violence. No, but otherwise, with KD and Book, it was the mid-range stuff. And they finished with 15 free throw attempts to Charlotte's 28. And they finished with 25 three-point attempts to Charlotte's 33. Particularly, those are the types of games that are interesting to me. When you have not only fewer free throws, but also fewer three-point attempts than the opposition, it really means that your offense is focalized so much around that mid-range area. Now, is this going to be an issue? I think against certain opponents, it could potentially be an issue. However, two things. First of all, Kevin Durant, on his career, is a guy who gets to the rim a decent amount, is a guy who applies a certain amount of rim pressure, and I do think as he adjusts and plays a little bit less conservatively, perhaps, than he was tonight, being that it was his debut and he's coming off a knee injury. I do think 15 field goal attempts to 1 free throw attempt for KD tonight, that's not normal for him. We're going to see that number go up. That's the first thing. The second thing is that rim pressure is important, but the NBA is also really weird right now. The level of parity that we currently have, just last year, the Golden State Warriors won the NBA Finals. They ranked 26th in the NBA in free throw attempts per game. They beat the Boston Celtics in the finals. The Boston Celtics ranked 24th in free throw attempts per game. So this idea that you can't win right now in the NBA, unless you just are one of these teams that spams free throws and grifts and is top 10 in free throw rate or whatever, it's just not true. Certainly it's something that helps. Like, I always talk about guys need to have a bread and butter. The easiest bread and butter in the NBA playoffs for sure is a guy who can just get to the rim at will. So for sure, if you're going up against Giannis, that's going to pose an issue. And that's part of the reason why Milwaukee is competitive and they're always in that conversation year after year.
Yeah.
But the idea that you can't win without that, with the NBA currently, like what the landscape being what it is, it's just false. And so I this is not like super high on my list of concerns for the Suns at the moment, at least not to the extent that I see some people talking about it.
You know, and I've always been just slightly less worried about that than you, but I think the Suns taking less, the combination of taking less 3-pointers and getting less free throws is a tough combination to win in the playoffs. But I just want to point out just how absurd Kevin Durant is offensively from the mid-range. It's not normal, guys. It's not. You know, for his career, between about 3 feet and 16 feet, he shoots about 47-ish%, which is good. In fact, it's elite. It's one of the best players in the NBA. But this season, he's shooting over 60% in that area. He's not just an elite scorer as far as just scoring from the mid-range for his career. He's having the best season of his career. This is the highest he's ever shot from those distances. His shot from mid-range is better than a lot of players' layups. It's better than most players at the rim, I would say, outside of most of the stars or big centers and stuff like that. His efficiency from mid-range is absurd. It's just you can't really compare, you know, the difference between playing that style of basketball without KD compared to playing that style of basketball with KD is just so dramatically different. He is having the best year basically by any mid-range scorer ever so far this season. And it's just, you know, you can't draw a lot of historical comparisons here because it's just he's different as Devin Booker said.
Yeah, Mike V. Hill 2023. He's different. There's our analysis. I mean, he was just spamming these shots these mid-range shots in the third quarter, fourth quarter where he just sees over the defense and it's automatic, man.
Where
it's
they
like,
play good defense. You know?
What is there to say? What is there to say about that?
Yeah.
There's nothing for me to say about that you can't see with your eyes.
Yeah.
He's different.
We're
calling it ethical hoops.
It's ethical hoops, yeah.
By the way. Because guys on this team, I don't care what people say about the Chris Paul rip through. Guys on this team don't grift. We're going to have a lot of nights like this where they have 12 free throw attempts and they still win the damn game. That's ethical hoops.
And there's just nowhere on the court that they can't score. You know, two of those guys. And, you know, when Chris Paul's feeling it, it's not going to be every night with Chris Paul anymore. We already know that. But when Chris Paul's feeling it, it's the same thing with him too.
He's as good as the other two on those nights.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. And it's going to be fascinating to watch. It's just so weird, you know, to see Kevin Durant in a Suns jersey, by the way.
Have you ordered a jersey yet, by the way?
No, I haven't. I could just go there. I could probably just go to the arena and get one. But yeah, I mean, if I get one, it's got to be the purple one. I will say. I'm excited to see them wear that one. You know, not my favorite jersey for them to debut Kevin Durant in. As far as the white jerseys, probably my least favorite of the ones that they wear so far this season. But it was really cool to see him. Another thing I wanted to mention with you is that no Terrence Ross in this game. Ish Wainwright played a little bit. Torrey Craig played a little bit to start. But then Monty went to TJ Warren. You know, people have been asking to see TJ Warren play. Not a great offensive showing for TJ Warren in this game, 1 for 5.
Let me just say, a game high. Kevin Durant was second on the team, plus 13. TJ Warren, game high, plus 15 in 13 minutes.
And just being on the court when Devin Booker and Kevin Durant were going off can help you out. Help you out if you're TJ Warren in that specific stat. But what I liked about him, you know, we talked about it in the playback, is he was just working hard defensively, and that's not something he's done throughout his career. And with TJ, the best season that most people can think of with TJ is the bubble season, and he was playing at his best. But the entirety of their offense when he was playing well revolved around him. And for TJ to carve out a role with this team, he has to be really impactful when that's not happening. And I have had my doubts on whether or not he could do that, and I still do. You know, but I did see somebody in TJ Warren today who seems to understand that and was working really hard to try and find ways to be effective defensively. And that's going to be really important for him because he's just not going to get a lot of shots on this team.
It's amazing what a couple of games of sitting on the bench and maybe some reflection. Maybe he's had a conversation with Monty about this already, too. I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case. But a couple games of sitting there and maybe only playing 7 minutes or not getting into the game at all, I'm sure TJ's had some time to think about what his role is on this team. The Suns still played 11 guys tonight. Like, they still need to trim down and Terrence Ross is not healthy. And Landry Shamet, I know some people are going to laugh at me bringing him up at all, but he's not healthy, and we know Monty loves Landry Shamet.
Yeah,
so I mean, we still have to trim this rotation. There's going to be a lot of competition in these wing spots. I would call it healthy competition, and I think you're seeing the benefit of that healthy competition tonight in a guy like TJ providing the effort he did. That doesn't guarantee that those minutes are going to be there every night, but for sure he deserves a chance to prove himself.
Well, I think that's the reason the competition is important. Right, because they're competing for a role. They're not competing to get a bunch of shots. They have to understand what the Suns need out of them in order to get minutes. And, it's a luxury to have guys like Torrey Craig, Ish Wainwright, and TJ Warren all competing for those minutes. And I think when Damian Lee, is not playing as well as he's been playing so far this season lately, it's going to be the same thing with Damian Lee, Terrence Ross, and Landry Shamet when Landry Shamet's healthy. All three of those guys are essentially going to be competing for the same role in the playoffs. And that's good. That's a good thing to have. And, understanding what the Suns need out of that is going to be the most important thing. And to see TJ Warren compete defensively, he had a block and a steal in this game. And those kinds of things are going to be really important for him, getting rebounds. He doesn't have the fastest shot release from three, True. Which is going to limit some of the threes that he's going to be able to take. So that, I think, hurts him a little bit with trying to find his way into the rhythm, into the rotation. But if they find ways to get him wide open, which I think they will, he can still make that. And that's going to be important for him, too. Not the greatest offensive showing, like I said. Still can't pass.
He'll have better ones, though.
Yeah, but I said exactly. I mean, offense it's his skill. That's what he's good at. So I'm not as worried about that. Although, he's got to move the ball every once in a while. Just prove that you can, TJ. Prove that you can get an assist on the Suns, and I think that would help him out a little bit.
Last thing I'll say here, maybe before we start to wrap things up, just, they had an all-bench lineup out there for a few minutes today because KD's on a minutes restriction. He only played 27 minutes. Not something I'm worried about at this point. I know a lot of people are talking about it, but let's see what it looks like post-minutes restriction. If we're still getting 5+ minutes of all bench at the same time, then maybe I would sound the alarm because obviously those lineups did not look good. But I'm not there yet, so I just wanted to address that.
Yeah, it's against Charlotte too, it's part of it. Right. You've seen Monty against good teams tends to shorten the rotation a little bit, and I think that you kind of have to afford them some ability to experiment for the rest of the season because there's just a bunch of new guys, and that means that they're going to be experimenting every once in a while. So I look forward to watching that for the most part. I just hope it leads to wins most of the time. And that's the advantage of having two aces, if you will, in Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, and both of them playing well. It's going to be fascinating to watch this team for the rest of the season, Sam. We're going to have a lot of time.
This was a completely, it's been a surreal experience in general. This was a completely surreal day of, especially the past few hours of watching the game, now getting to talk about the game. But this was like all I looked forward to today, to be entirely honest with you. So this was such a weird experience. I'm sure a lot of people had the same thing happen. Could not focus at work one bit. I was just thinking about the game. We got to watch this guy in his Suns uniform, see what's going to happen. And we're finally here. New chapter is here. So
let's
see what happens.
Nuggets 1 seed, Memphis Grizzlies 2 seed, Sacramento Kings are the 3rd seed, and then the Suns are 4th. By the way, Warriors kind of back in it here, and Steph supposedly coming back soon. Then the Clippers, and then we got the group of the play-in teams with the Portland Trail Blazers and the Lakers still kind of out of that play-in race right now. Maybe could claw their way into it. The Suns are 3 games back from the Kings. Do you think there's a chance the Suns catch them? They're still playing pretty well.
There's absolutely a chance. But, it's 3 games back with 20 to go is kind of a pretty steep difference. But I mean, look, if we go 15-5 or better, then yeah, we're right in it.
I could see the Suns catching them. I could also see, I hate to say this about the Grizzlies, but I could also see the Grizzlies dropping out a little bit too. Maybe the top 3 being Denver, Sacramento, and Phoenix. But look, we're going to have to see them play against a good team as well, as far as the Suns go. You know, Chicago, Friday, who've been playing okay. And we'll see what ends up happening later on. It's going to be fascinating to watch this team the rest of the season. Keep an eye on those standings, I would say, because things could change pretty quickly here. You got anything else before we go?
Just housekeeping. Next episode for us. So again, we're trying to get back on a normal schedule now. Definitely want to get this pod out to you guys just so you have some KD content to chew on. But next pod probably going to come out like Monday next week after the Sunday game. And then we'll try and be back on a regular schedule for sure.
That's right. Yep. And it was a blast today in the playback. So if you're one of the people who joined us, we really appreciate you. Over 230 people at one point.
Insane.
A crazy halftime show inspired by our Discord, which was a blast as well. Shout out to Berto for doing that. But yeah, appreciate you guys. If you'd like to join our Patreon and be involved in those crazy Discord conversations, you can join at patreon.com/thetimeline. We will have some updates on playback soon. We'll let you know when our next game will be, but we appreciate you guys and we'll be back soon.
For over a century, Johnny Walker has shared its bold spirit with the game of golf. Now, crafted with Devereaux Golf, Johnny Walker introduces the Johnny Walker Blue Label-inspired Sunday Golf Bag, elevating the game with sleek design, Blue Label hues, and refined gold accents. Celebrate your hole-in-one with a premium Sunday bag crafted by Devereaux Golf. Submit proof of your achievement to johnnywalker.com/blue-in-1. Please drink responsibly.